Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Paula Abro, the host of Quantum Waves of Wellness. But today I'm changing hats and launching a brand new podcast called The Frequency Effect, The Secret to Everything. Now, the topic is the same. Of course, it's my favorite topic in the world, and it's going to be all about energy. But this is obviously a video instead of an audio only. And we're going to do interviews with this podcast. And our first our first guest is Julia Nemes. She's a naturopath from beautiful Milan, Italy. And I'm so happy to have Julia with us. She's an author, an educator, and frequency medicine expert who helps people understand the hidden energetic patterns shaping thought, behavior, and health. Blending natural medicine, spirituality, bioresonance technology, and over 2 decades of consciousness exploration, she helps people reconnect to what she calls their original vibration. Welcome, Julia. I'm so pleased to have you as the first guest.
Thank you, Paula. This is really exciting. Thank you so much for thinking about me. Thanks.
And I'm so happy to have the first guest, somebody that I actually know. Not only have I personally been learning from Julia, taking her classes, but she actually was also my doctor. I hired Julia to help me with some health issues. And I don't know if you know this or not, Julia, but I did a whole podcast about my experience working with you.
I did not know that. I want
Aha!
to
I'm
hear
gonna
it.
have to send you the link because I
Ah,
was so
that's
touched
nice.
by how you operated and the things that you said to me really hit home. So, yeah, it's really special that
Yeah.
you're the first guest. So, Julia, the words energy, vibration, and frequency, they're becoming really popular right now. Like, you hear it everywhere. You go on social media, right? Everybody's talking about it, and lots of practitioners are claiming to do it, claiming to use these technologies. But it's getting a little bit unclear. Is there a difference between energy, frequency, and vibration? Are those the same things? Are they different? Can you shed some light on that for us?
Paula, you're so right, because when we have a lazy language, meaning we're using the same terms for all kinds of things and it's all blurry, it might be a good marketing strategy, but it's not a good strategy for our evolution, for our understanding, for really putting these things into what we can actually implement in our life. Because if I say, raise your vibration or improve your energy, what does it really mean? It's not, it's unclear. So people is fascinated with this kind of things, but then they struggle with some exhaustion, in the mind. It's like all this consciousness and awareness. And it's beautiful, to talk about the biofield and the quantum field and such. But it's a very simple distinction that I like to make, thinking about musical instruments. Actually, if you take a guitar, the chords, they have energy because they're pulled like this. So whenever there is, contrast, they create a force, and that's energy. And we have all sorts of energies. We can, distinguish different kinds of energy, but at the end, there are forces. So when we have a force, that's energy. Now, that chord in the guitar, it's going to vibrate when you touch it. So that energy is going to move at a certain rhythm. The rhythm or the velocity of that movement, it's called frequency. So it might seem, not so relevant, this distinction, but it's actually huge when you do this kind of work, like when you do therapy with frequencies, because really the frequency is the letter in an alphabet, is the language really that creates a language. But it's very different from saying, you know, clearing your energy. Doesn't mean anything at all, really. So when you are more specific, actually, you're able to also understand what it means for you to be an energetic system. It means that everything in you creates a force or is a force or needs force, needs energy to operate simply. But that energy is going to vibrate, so to move in different rhythms based on what it's going to do. our brain moves, vibrates, brain waves, we say, they vibrate in a certain way, and we know what they do when they do that kind of vibration. And so, everything, the heart, every organ, every system. So that's why we say everything is frequency and vibration. But there's really very important distinctions here, which it became important in my life also to understand what we're talking about. Does it make some clear? It's clear, that it's good for us to distinguish and not just say, "Oh, raise your vibration." Um,
Absolutely. And I think, this is my language we're speaking, but I'm trying to put myself, in the shoes of somebody that maybe doesn't really have as much exposure. And I love the way you said, like, there's the guitar string and you need energy in order to get it to move, right? So it takes energy to put your finger on it and pluck it. And then the tone, the note, the sound, that's the frequency. And as we know, musical instruments can be in tune and they can be out of tune, right?
exactly,
And now what I
exactly,
think what you're saying is the human body also could be in tune and out of tune.
exactly. So the the tone that that guitar is going to play, the sound that is going to play, is as much harmonic or beautiful or nice to hear as that frequency or that vibration is coherent. So if we just plug it with no rhythm or no sense of rhythm and not really playing anything, it's not going to sound nice, right? But every instrument has its own specific tone or sound. So if we stay close to that, we're going to play a beautiful music. Same as the body. So every organ in the body, every substance, really everything that this is the new science of bioresonance, where we basically measured all substances and everything that is alive. So it's has energy. We measured it in terms of what frequency does it have or should have to be coherent. And coherence is a law of nature. Everything that thrives and evolves, it's because it has coherence, and it's integrated into its own purpose, sort of. So I know the language can get a bit confusing, but if we understand from our experience and we're able to bring it back to our experience and even think, okay, what if I'm like an instrument, and I play a music, a sound, which is so, not just with our voice, but with everything. Our energy moves and really emits signals and sounds. We could translate it into sound, and we are actually through technology. And that sound needs to be harmonic, so coherent. It needs to play a nice, good music that is really our own. If we try to play another person's music with ourselves, right, with this instrument, it's not going to sound nice. So this is like trying to impersonate somebody that we're not. It's the same thing, right?
Right,
So
right,
something gets lost there if we're not playing our own music. So how do we get to the own music, to our own music, right? That
right,
was my
exactly.
question years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking some people are gonna be listening to you and saying, "Well, if I try to sing, I can't sing in tune. I sing out of tune. Does that mean my body is not, coherent and is not in the right energies?" But that does it have anything to do with that?
I mean, the voice and how we express our sound through the voice, that's a voluntary using of a biological system, the vocal cords, and what we have here, the resonance cage, of the body. But that is an intentional sound that we can play, and there is no such thing as not being in tune. Everybody has its own tune, We just don't know how to do it. Sometimes we haven't learned, or we're trying to sing. I can't sing Michael Jackson's voice, right?
Right.
And anyway, I'm a terrible singer. I haven't tried, but if I try, it's not going to be good. But I there is a place in my sound that sounds like me feeling very good, and that will always be nice, will always be
Mm,
harmonic. So see, I think people misunderstands or judges maybe their performance in any kind, in any personality like or emotional like or mental like, because they try to match it to something else that it's
mm,
not theirs,
yeah.
doesn't belong to who they are,
You need to
sort
be
of.
you, right? So let me
You need
ask
to be
you,
you.
is this what you mean when you say that term original vibration? It sounds to me like we all have like the perfect vibration that God had intended when we were born. But then as we go through life, maybe we get out of tune. So can you kind of explain what you mean by the original vibration?
Yes, this is a beautiful concept that I would say just came to me through research and understanding the science of bioresonance, where we're saying everything, every substance has a vibrational signature, we call it, meaning we can measure a substance not by the chemistry of the molecules, but by the energy, by how the energy vibrates in that substance, so by the frequency. And that is how we created database after database of how any substance should sound. And if you think about homeopathy or Bach flower therapy, Bush flower therapy in general, that is the principle that is being used. We're saying there is a specific signature of chamomile. And if you reproduce that frequency, that signature true frequency, and that frequency can be delivered in all sorts of ways. Sound is one way, light is another way. You are basically acquiring the qualities of that substance. So I found that's fascinating, but nobody's saying you as a human being have your own signature. That must be so, because
Mhm.
everything has a vibrational signature. But going further with this concept, a human being is much more complex. We have our personalities, we have our memories, we have our body, of course, we have our consciousness, our subtle bodies, if you want, because the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, these are all sort of us in different levels of energy or vibration. And this whole complex that is you, for me, has started with a vibration, meaning it comes into being either as a body in this material world or as a soul, if you want, in the eternal dimensions, but it comes through a vibration, which makes sense, right? So that I call the original vibration, which is something, it's your specific signature in the universe. It's not just this life, it's everything that is your consciousness, let's say individual consciousness or soul, if we want to use that reference, which is I think easy for people. That original vibration carries your plan, your project, the reason why you exist.
Your
If we
soul's
want to
purpose.
believe there is your purpose, your basically your qualities, which is very important for me. Like for every substance that we use in therapy, we use their qualities, right? If you want to use lavender, right, or you want to use a certain herb, speaking about natural medicine, we want to acquire or use the qualities of this particular substance. I think it's the same with us as souls. We have a certain set of qualities. And I call those archetypes, the
Yes.
ideal. The archetypes are really the blueprint of personalities that we can embody, and everybody has a different mixture of it. And the original vibration sits in the middle of really everything that you could be or develop. And it just carries the potency of your possibilities, what you could be if you are, completely realized. And I think this is a very big healing direction. For many people, healing or evolving or transforming is becoming something else, is becoming better, right?
Mhm.
Becoming the best version of yourself and things like that. Well,
Yes.
over time, I also was in that trap, because I call it a trap now, because it keeps you into the belief that you are not that. You're not. So you have to work for it. You have to do things. You have to heal. You have to change. You have to transform. And that is sort of diminishing your true power, self, energy. Your energy becomes less coherent when your consciousness thinks, I'm not there yet. I'm not, I have to become something. But if it's true, that every substance has a set of qualities and we can use those qualities or really absorb those qualities, use them for healing, for anything, by just connecting with the frequency. That's what we do in even homeopathy, because it's well known, right? And flower therapy, these are vibrational therapies
Mm.
that were, before technology came in.
Yes.
And so if that is true for human beings, it's the same. We are being used by nature, not for our, you know desires or intentions or purpose. We're being used for our qualities, what it is, that Paula is for Mother Nature. And Mother Nature is going to use you because you have a certain set of qualities. And my belief is that when people start to realize who they are truly, and that they are that always, that's always there. You're always the realized Paula, and everything that you've been given by nature and by the universe is there with care. It's basically encapsulated in your original vibration, that because it's a vibration, and we discussed what vibration means, it continues to move inside your consciousness. Basically, it's like a power engine, right? That has a rhythm and a movement and vibrates through everything that you are. Now, obviously, if I don't believe enough of myself, or I think I'm sick, or I think I'm wrong, or I think, all these beliefs kind of breaks the rhythm,
And
right?
drains the energy, right? That's a
And
huge drain of the energy, and I think
yes,
so many people are stuck there, right? Feeling
yeah.
not good enough, always trying to find what's wrong with them.
Mm. That's a big one, because it's kind of how we are trained, or we think about things, always seeing things in the future. It will be better. I have to work for this. Yes, at the end, in your day-to-day life, you're not sitting on the couch and saying, I'm perfect. I do nothing and like that. But by you really embodying your original vibration, that original vibration becomes potent. It becomes strong, and it moves and it vibrates, and it basically makes you do the things that you need to do. You don't have to think about it. It's beautiful that way, because it actually then creates a lot of coherence in your own body. Therefore, healing it's easier. I'm not
So
saying it's immediate, but
So I
it's
am
much easier.
again going to put myself in the shoes of most listeners, and I know what they're all thinking right now. Well, how do I know what my original vibration is? Like everybody would want to know that. So can you explain? I know that you have tools to do this, but why don't we transition? Like I would love to know. Obviously, you've been a naturopathic doctor for decades, and I'm assuming when you started, it was with the actual herbs and with things like
Yeah.
homeopathy. But now it seems like your practice has really evolved. So why don't you explain a little bit about the transition and how the technology you're using now can find out the original vibration?
Yes. Well, so starting with one simple thing, right, before getting into how it became for me a complex, really, work that I do. at the base of it, it's really simple. You just have to allow the thought that you have an original vibration that is the reason of you, and that in a very deep and profound part of you, everything is right. Everything as is it's supposed to be. Then if you couple this with what quantum physics is telling us, that there is no time, then you're always there, and you're always in every part of your experience of life. So when I started to understand that, it was a very big change for me, because coming from, yes, you need to work for this, you need to improve. I've done years, decades, as you said, of spiritual work and meditation for hours, and a lot of how can I say, almost forcing the change, almost very disciplined and very, and I was noticing that this didn't bring about change automatically in life. Not for me, not for anybody else. Something was missing, there. And then I started to think, you are the only person that can define yourself. Because through my experience of life, I've had some, obviously, disillusion with spirituality, or anyway with practices per se, because at the beginning, when you're really young and you believe, and there's a lot of enthusiasm and belief, you don't question many things, and it's always partial, everything that somebody can tell you about yourself, and even could be distorted, because every system somehow, and I'm not talking about conscious system, like people really trying to distort your beliefs or such. It's just automatic that when you follow any thought, any system, any belief, something gets distorted if it's not from within. This we learned
Mm.
already, right? But how to get within and where to go within. And when I started to think, oh, so if chamomile has a signature, and I can use chamomile and, really derive all the benefits of chamomile, then I have my own signature, and this original vibration has its quality, and it can reverberate into my whole being. And I am me because I can define myself from within. And this started a big change, because the reality outside of me was returning an image of myself that I couldn't recognize anymore. And I think this happens to many people. The word outside is a mirror of you, right? We basically signal the energy that we embody. So we signal our vibration, and that signal, it's being mirrored back through the experiences that we have, through people we meet, everything, right? At some point, if you're not really in tune with your original vibration, how I call it now, that image comes back distorted. So you either collapse and believe the distortion, and that's how many people get sick. I truly believe that. I believe that
Mm.
sickness is just a wrong belief. You believe in the image, the word is returning to you, and it's distorted, and you have to gain it back and really be a master of your own self. Who you are, you have to decide, and that changes everything, and that is the starting point of healing. Now, that original vibration being a signature, we can measure it somehow. I mean, first thing, very simple, is that you allow this thought to be processed by your consciousness. And I found that when I start talking about this to people, and they start saying, okay, so what if I have an original vibration, and it's all the qualities that I am, right? How I was created and for what purpose. And they start connected with the thought of it. This concept of the original vibration, I think, is so powerful that just the thought of it puts you in sync with your own internal reality. And that is already the first step.
Mm.
Then there's technology. So And I like that. I like technology, and I know it's controversial now with AI and everything. And I believe we have to be very careful. I do, I believe. And I have a son, so I know what it means, for parents to be worried about how they use this technology and how they are in the devices all day and all night and like that.
Yes.
But still, if used with some intelligence, human intelligence. What technology has done in my line of work, specifically in this kind of therapy, which is called biofeedback and bioresonance, technology has allowed us to classify the frequencies in terms of hertz of everything, most of the things that we're able to measure, and there are databases for this. So like we have knowledge about the molecular composition of a substance, or the chemical equation of a molecule. Same thing, we have now the set of frequencies that correspond to a substance, and so we can measure the human body and see which elements of the body, either, organs, systems, parts of the body, or substances that run into our body, are coherent, meaning they vibrate at the right frequency for them. So, where the original vibration helps us here, knowing that what our aim is to go back to coherence and get the person back in sync with their original vibration, which only they can know. I have to say this, it's a very
Mm.
beautiful process, but only you can know, because it's a feeling, it's a being, really. So you are that, right? Nobody else can tell you. And this is beautiful, but it's really very difficult, because we're looking for confirmation, we're looking for diagnosis, we're looking for somebody outside or something outside of us telling us how we are, who we are, what's wrong with us, and all that. It's really very strong in human beings, and I think our next step in evolution is realizing that we know who we are, and we have to get in tune with the feeling of being me. I call
Mm.
it like that, the me that feels me, that is already in the original vibration. And then, of course, there are other ways that we guide people understanding how their original vibration expresses itself. Like for me, I'm an alchemist as an archetype, meaning I am moved by the love for knowledge. See, every person, every original vibration comes from love, really, which is, we can say, is the most powerful energy in the universe. This is how we understand it so far, then our understanding, I know it's limited, but it's getting better. And so we are really made of this beautiful energy, that its existence, its being, it's, so we call it love, and it has different sides of it, and every person incarnates a certain type of love, right?
Mm.
So I guide people understand what is the type of love that moves you, and then everything that you choose in life has to match that. If, my love for knowledge has brought me to understand that I am not a therapist only. I like to do therapy, but I like teaching more. So I accepted that about myself, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's a bit hard sometimes, because you invest many years studying something, and then you want to be that, or people expect you to be something, and you want to prove them right, or you want to, have
Yes.
legitimacy and like that. But if you truly understand what moves you, and it's a bit different, then you take the courage and move in that direction, and it heals you. Automatically, it heals you already, because
Mm.
your whole system becomes more coherent. So, through technology, we read where your body, mind, and your emotions and such, which are also energy, are away or not in tune with what we know they're supposed to be, let's say, you
Yeah.
know, which is different for everybody. And that is a new process that we can do. It hasn't been done before. We had different holistic therapies, different ways of doing, intuitive work also. But technology is helping us do something that it wasn't even possible, I don't know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Right. And maybe one of these podcasts in the future, maybe we can actually start showing, you know, people I think are just going to become more and more
Sure.
curious from all of the things we're talking about, but it would be nice to actually show people what you're talking about someday.
Yeah, well, sure. Why not? We're using a technology now. It's the Genius Inside technology I love most. I have other devices as well. This word is now very vast. Technology has helped a lot, and there are many different ways. But basically, I like to use the things that are the simplest and give most results, so
Mhm.
minimum input, maximum output. And the
Exactly.
genius is that for me, because really it helps me read and also treat the body in this way. So if you take an instrument, again, like our guitar from before, we know it can sound in a certain way. But then we take an old guitar, it hasn't been, adjusted, or how you say it, the chords
Tuned.
are tuned, they're not tuned, and like that. And you have to tune it. How do you do that? You have to have a reference. You have a tone that is a reference for what's, the actual tune. So you do that, and the guitar changes and the sound is beautiful. We do that with the body. Isn't
Exactly.
that?
That's exactly how I try to explain it to clients as well. So let's say you're the old guitar and you're out of tune. What the genius is doing is introducing the on tune note or chord so that we can easily move back into that same tone. So it's a beautiful way to explain it.
Everybody can understand, right? Musical instruments, and how music really can change our brain and can change our just status and condition. And immediately, we have uh, a change of rhythm inside of us. And so that is very important. This, what we use in therapy, is not just music, it's a specific key of, basically, an alchemy of specific frequencies, which are letters in a language. We have to create the words that our cells need.
Mhm.
So same as we talk to somebody or to a child, we tell the child beautiful things, and their brain grows and understand, and they really, change when you say loving beautiful things. It's the same with our cells, and the language for our cells is in terms of vibration and frequencies, because chemistry comes later,
Yes, it's
truly.
the universal language, right? Wouldn't you say that energy is the universal language?
It is what we are made of, so it cannot be any different,
Right.
and now we're finally able to learn this language. It's like really learning a new language. And it's made of letters. So the frequencies, like one frequency, people is used to go to YouTube maybe and listen to 432 hertz.
Yeah.
But that's one letter. That is not a sentence. So it's nice, it's like vocalizing the A, or the
Mhm.
I, or like that, but it's just one letter. Your body needs a whole sequence. And we're now able, through technology, to identify which is the sequence that you most need in this moment, and what can help you most. And obviously, I always think about the original vibration. Where can I clear up the obstacles that are, breaking down the original vibration? It's always there. It's never separate from you. It is
Mm.
you, but you can hear it, live by it, make choices that are in sync with it, or not. So
Mm,
we try
I
to
just love
go
it. I
back to
just
that.
love that your whole mission seems to be just bringing people back to their ultimate human potential. And not going to a doctor to say, "What's wrong with me? Here's your diagnosis. This is what's wrong. This is what we're going to fix." With you, it's not about that. With you, it's about boosting your potential and bringing you back to what God had intended. So that's just wonderful work. Oh, it's so exciting, Julie. I love it. I love everything that you're doing. Obviously, I love this whole industry. And this
It's a
is what
beautiful
I
word.
always refer to as the future of medicine. And that's my
Yes.
biggest goal. That's why I'm here today and in the work I do. I just want people to know that the future of medicine, it's here now, today. And that's what I'm hoping that we can, drive home with these podcasts. So
No,
thank you
and you're
very much.
doing Thank you, Paula. I just want to say you're doing a great job in this because really, yes, the future is here and it's different from what appears to when we use that kind of language or social media and marketing and like that. We need to be real and know what is useful for us to do in our lives. And then day by day, we can implement and really be who we are supposed to be, who we are always.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's something that we should end with, just let everybody know that they need to do them. You gotta be you. Don't be
Yeah.
anybody else. Don't try to,
Yes.
think you're not good enough and try to, be s achie have high aspirations to be somebody else because that's not what life is all about. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I do hope you'll come back and visit again. I'll be in
Thank
touch, and
you.
I'm sure there's endless topics that you and I can discuss.
Sure. This is a great start. Thank you so
Okay.
much,
Well,
Paula.
until then, I guess
Thank
I'll
you,
just say
everybody.
one of the only Italian words I know. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you.